Hey y'all, welcome back to the farm. Today we're going to be talking about getting ready for chicks. It's nearing the end of February, and as you can see, there's still snow on the ground, but the weather's going to be warming up soon, and that means it's time to get chicks in the brooder. Next week, we're going to have our laying hens arrive. We ordered a bunch of hens. We got 40 hens coming and a few ducks. So it's going to be a new experience for us, and we'll definitely let you know how that goes. But what I thought would be nice to share with y'all is how we prepare for getting those chicks in. Because there's a few things you want to do before they arrive. So you go through the process. You find your hatchery, you put your order in, and you wait with anticipation as your chicks come. But before they get there, you want to make sure you're ready. So the first thing we start with is going to be the brooder. We use this Rubbermaid tub, but you can use anything. You can use a cardboard box, you can make a little box out of wood, or even use like a small animal pen or something like that. Whatever it is, you just want to use something that's going to keep the chicks contained, because the chicks are small, and believe it or not, they want to stay pretty close together, especially when it's still cold outside. Chicks prefer to be kept at 95 degrees the first week of their life. So keeping them in a containment like this, where they're close to their food and their water and their heat source, is going to make sure they have a better chance of survival than, say, if they just kind of have the run of a larger brooder. Inside that tub or box or whatever you use for your brooder, you're going to want to use some bedding. We use pine shavings for the bedding. They work pretty well because it helps keep things clean, it mixes with their manure, and it's not so small that they can't stand on it. It's also not so big that they'll fall between it. Sometimes if you use things like straw, the straw is too big, it's got too much room, and the chicks just kind of sink into it. So definitely using something like pine shavings inside your brooder is going to go a long way to keep your chicks healthy. Another thing you're going to want to keep inside your brooder is feed and water. And before we get directly into feed and water, I want to point out that it's very important to have something to keep the water in and something to keep the feed in. We like to feed our chicks in a feeder like this as long as they're in the brooder. Once they get older, we start feeding them directly on the ground, and this encourages them to scratch the ground and peck for plants and different insects. But while they're in the brooder, we use this to help keep the feed contained. We also use a little water like this. It's a little gravity water to keep them watered. And what we'll do, especially while they're in the brooder, is we'll give them water with a little bit of apple cider vinegar. The apple cider vinegar helps encourage good gut health, good digestive health, which goes a long way to keep your chicks healthy in the brooder. Along with the feeders, you're also going to want to get some feed. So we start with a high protein chick starter or game bird feed that we get from our local co-op. Something we didn't learn until the second year of keeping birds is how valuable the co-op can be for sourcing feed, but also for sourcing any of the items you might need to keep chickens in your home. You don't have to be a big scale farmer to go take advantage of a co-op. A co-op is normally a local small business in your town or area, and it goes a long ways to supporting local agriculture by checking in with them to see what they have before ordering out from a big box store, ordering out from online. I actually bought everything that I'm showing you today from my local co-op, and it's everything I need to get started with my chickens other than the chicks themselves. So like I said, we start with a high protein feed. This feed is 28% protein. They don't need that their whole lives. When you go, you'll realize that this feed is more expensive than, say, a layer mix or something like that, because as they get older, they need different kinds of minerals to keep up with the egg production. But when they're younger, they just need protein. They need a lot more protein to keep themselves healthy and put some meat on them and keep them hot when it's cold outside. So we use a high protein. We do not get medicated feed. We're not buying organic feed, but we don't buy medicated feed. We're interested in promoting good health inside the brooder and not immunizing our birds from a young age. We just want them to get used to healing themselves, which isn't so crazy. Let me tell you, I'll put out another video later about things you might not know about birds if you're getting started. So last but certainly not least is a heat lamp. A heat lamp is a very important piece of equipment inside your brooder. Like I said earlier, chicks prefer 95 degrees the first week of their lives. So when it's ambient temperatures are 40 and below outside, that's a lot of difference to make up. So a heat lamp like this is a very important tool. There's nothing extraordinary about this lamp, but the bulb itself puts off a lot of heat, and the bowl shape of the lamp helps direct that at the birds. You want to put this out of the bird's way so they can't get to it, but close enough to where the birds are that it's 95 degrees, and then you can kind of back it off as they get older and they become more acclimated to colder temperatures. The reason I like this heat lamp is it can be used two ways. One, it's got a clamp on the back, so you can clamp it directly to your brooder and then aim it at the birds. I also like that this has a hook on the back, so you can take the clamp off and hang it from a string so that you can drop it in on top of the birds and have it suspended from the roof. So that's all we need to get started. Let's head in the brooder over here and get set up. So now we've moved inside what we call our brooder. This is really just a small room in the corner of our lean-to, but your brooder can be anywhere. Anywhere where you can safely close in the chicks, keep them warm and out of the weather. This could be your garage, a shed, a greenhouse, and even inside your house. I don't recommend that because they can get noisy and stir up a lot of dust, especially as they get older, but you can do this anywhere you have the space. So here you go. I got my tub like I talked about, and I've already suspended my light from the ceiling, and it's right over my tub. The day of, I might actually move this lower. I want this to be very warm right under the light, but I also want my light to be in one corner of the tub. The reason for this is because the chicks will regulate their body temperature by moving closer and farther away from the light source. So if it's in the corner, they can have a hot side and a cool side, and I might put the water somewhere in the middle so they can get around it if they really need to cool off. I don't imagine what's going to happen because, like I said, it's at the end of February right now, but if I'm keeping chicks in the summertime and then later in the fall, like August or September, they can get very hot and they will appreciate being able to get away. So now that I've got this set up, I'm going to go ahead and take my pine shavings and pour them all over the bottom. Now I want a couple of inches of pine shavings all across the bottom here so that they have plenty of area to soak up any manure and any droppings. So I'm going to go ahead and spread this out. Perfect. Now, one thing to keep in mind with the pine shavings is they will kick these all over the place. So when I put their water in here and actually have it full of water, I'm going to want to try to keep that clean. They're going to kick pine shavings into it, especially as they get a little bigger. When they're day-old chicks, they're not strong enough to kick a bunch of pine shavings in, but as they keep growing, they're going to start kicking those pine shavings into the water, and you're either going to want to elevate the water or make a little border or tray for the water to go in so that the chicks have a little boundary between where the pine shavings start and where the water is. So I'm also going to put their feed here on the side so it's easy for them to access, and they can also get it from both the hot and the cold side if they're too warm over here and want to walk away but still need to eat. I've done the same thing with the water, putting it here in the middle so that they can get to the cold side and the hot side and still have access to water. So this is it. My brooder is set up and ready to go. I've got everything I need nearby, extra pine shaving. I've also transferred some of their feed from that heavy 50-pound bag into this 5-gallon bucket so I can scoop it out and refill their feeder as I need to without having to have that bag out. Because I'm in a small barn, I put it in a 5-gallon bucket. That also keeps it away from mice and other vermin that would try to eat this grain. Now that we're ready, all we have to do is go pick up our chicks. Our chicks aren't here yet. They'll be here sometime this week. When I get the call that they're here and I have to go pick them up at the post office, what I'll do the day of is mix my water with my apple cider vinegar. You're only going to put in, if this is about a half a gallon of water, I'm only going to put in maybe a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. You don't need it to be too strong. You just put a little bit in there to help them get that digestive kick started. And then I'm going to plug in my heat lamp. I won't leave it plugged in now because I don't have any chicks to keep warm, but I want to make sure I plug this in before I go to the post office to get my chicks. That way the brooder is already warm when they get here. And like I said, that means we're ready. I'll do another video talking about what to do the day of and that first week you have chicks, as well as a video kind of explaining some things that we didn't know when we first started raising chickens that would have been very helpful. So look out for those videos. But if you have any questions about what to do to get ready for chickens, or questions about chickening in general, let me know in the comments. I'd love to answer your questions and get back to you. And consider subscribing so you can see those videos as they come out. Anyway, thanks so much for watching this video. Thanks for visiting the farm. Have a great day. See you later.